How not to steal others' ideas. Okay, so this is what we're going to be talking about today, and I know that it's kind of a strange idea because how could you steal someone else's ideas? It's actually pretty easy to do, and a lot of students end up doing this by accident. So let's take a look at what this would mean. So we're going to be talking about plagiarism. Plagiarism is a big word, but it simply means taking someone else's ideas and using it as your own. We all have done it, especially when we're young. You see something in a paragraph, and then you take that and you write it down on your page just like it was in the book. When you use someone else's words and say that it is your own, you are actually stealing it, and it is actually illegal. Plagiarism is illegal. So when you are taking words out of a book and then you're writing them down on your paper, that is actually illegal to turn in and say that you wrote it. So why do you research if you can't use their words? This seems like a little bit tricky to me because you do this work and you're reading it and stuff. So what's the purpose of doing that reading if you can't actually use those words on your page? Your teachers have worked with you before on coming up with the main idea. The reason for this is that you are supposed to read a page and then use your own words to tell your teacher what it says. Let's look at an example. Okay, so here on the left over here, it says, here's an example of words from a book. So this text is actually from a book. I copied it with the purpose for us comparing how you would change their words into your words to make it okay. So their words say, plants usually get light they need from the sun, but they can also grow in artificial light. Plants use light energy to make up a type of sugar called glucose. They use glucose as their energy source. Plants make glucose in a part of their leaf cells called the chloroplast. Each chloroplast contains a green pigment called chlorophyll. It's what allows the plant to absorb light energy. So what's here on the left, if you were to write that in your paper, you would sound awesome. You would sound just like a scientist. But the problem is those aren't your words. You can't just copy those onto your page because, again, that's illegal. And if you think about it, it's illegal for a good reason. The author spent a lot of time coming up with those words, and they should get credit for their work, and you should get credit for your work. So on the right-hand side, I've kind of taken like the main ideas from that text. So let's take a look at that. Here is how I make this into my own words so I'm not stealing. I just say, plants need light. Plants use the light to make sugar for energy in something called chloroplast. Now this would be an example that I took that big long stuff over to the left and I turned it into a smaller sentence that looks more like my own work. Now on the next page I'm going to go ahead and give you some tips. Okay, so the first thing would be to take notes. This means write down the main idea of a paragraph that you read. So as you're going through and you see something interesting, go ahead and write it down and take a note on it. If there is a word on the page that you don't know, it should not be in your paper. I'm sorry, guys. I know that a lot of times you want to go ahead and maybe sound a little bit more cool, but when your teacher comes and asks you, this is something that I ask my students all the time. If they're doing some writing and I see kind of a big word in there and I'm like, hey, what does this word mean? And they can't tell me, then I know they plagiarized and they stole someone else's work, and that's not okay. So if there is a word in there that you don't know, don't write it down as your own. It just looks bad. When you are done taking notes, put them together and complete your writing. So what you're going to do is you're going to take those notes that you wrote down through all of your research, and then you're going to come up with your own knowledge. And that just means putting it in your own words. You're going to have to think a little bit, and it is more difficult than just writing down someone else's words. But when you're done, it's cool because it's something that you actually wrote and didn't copy someone else's ideas. Now, this is the last part. If you really, really need to copy something that someone else has said, then you have to give them credit for the work. It's only fair. In this case, you would use quotation marks around what you're copying, like this. Plants are awesome. Notice that the quotation marks are around plants are awesome. So those little air quotes up there on each side, that says that you're not the one who said that. You're taking what someone else said and you're putting it in your paper, but you're giving credit to that person. Let's look at this next paragraph. This lets you know that what is inside the quotation marks is something that someone else wrote. At the end, you should also put the name of the person who wrote it and the page number. It would look like this. Quotation marks, plants are awesome, and then in parentheses, Baldridge, and then that little comma and page 48. Now this is all very official, and your teacher might not require you to put all of this, but this is the actual proper way, even all the way until college, to go ahead and give someone else credit for their work. That way you're not plagiarizing and it's not illegal. This way you didn't pretend that you came up with the idea. You gave the author credit. All right, guys, I hope that this has helped you a little bit understand how not to copy another person's work, and that you have a little bit of information of what you can and can't do with other people's things that they've written. All right, I hope you enjoyed, and you guys have a great day.